How's it going, guys? Joe here. Today I'm going to continue doing that Fitbit development stuff that I was doing last time. So let's just get to it. So first of all, of course, I've made a couple changes since I last live streamed because it's mainly a bunch of playing around with stuff until I get the most desired results. So first of all, instead of using my Stream Deck, I realized I could use my Steam controller because I can connect that wirelessly to my USB hub without any power difficulties. So, yeah, that works perfectly fine. But OBS has to be in focus for the scene switch to work, unfortunately. So, yeah, there's that. The other thing I was going to mention is the difference between wearing a mic and using the webcam microphone. So, essentially, I was thinking of demonstrating that real quickly. So, this mic is like pretty decent, right? I hope it's as decent as last time. But, how about my webcam mic? Actually, first, let me verify that this other source that I have here is that. Yep, it is. So, yeah, so now I'm going to switch to the other mic. So what if I use this mic instead? Then it's kind of echoey, I think. And if I go here, you can actually kind of hear the fan on it a little bit. It's even more difficult like this if I go far away and stuff. However, if I go like this, and we use this mic instead, then it should be a lot better, or at least consistent with wherever I happen to be walking and stuff like that. And of course I can change the scene wirelessly and stuff, so that's another pro. I'm actually using rechargeable Analoop AA batteries in there, so technically it's rechargeable, so that's also nice. Yeah, if you really want to like make it cringy and stuff, what if I use the webcam mic all the way over there once? How's this? Can you hear me well over here? Yeah, it makes a difference how close I am, right? If you couldn't even hear what I said just now, I said it makes a difference how close I am, right? If I use that microphone. But here makes no difference at all. Anyway, let's get to this. So obviously last time I didn't get as far as I wanted, but let's continue on. So I'm gonna go to Fitbit Studio. Actually, first get OBS in focus, and I can switch the scene. So first we're gonna go to Fitbit Studio, and I'm gonna go right here. So obviously last time we were trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to get multiple of the text area elements to scroll, because I want to go beyond the height limit that there is by default. And I was going to try to figure out exactly how to scroll with that. Well, I believe I do have that figured out now, so let me show you the solution. It's of course a fairly simple one, but it's one where you can easily overthink, so I'll show you exactly what should have happened. So this is it before I came up with the solution. So of course we created another scroll and stuff, or we created another scroll. Actually, this not scrolled and stuff is completely irrelevant at this point. None of that even happens. Technically, all we have to do is what the original event was, except this is the only new line that needs to exist. But the reason why it wasn't scrolling before, like it was only scrolling with the first half and not the second half, is because when we touch the screen, it's doing it based on the element that we're touching. Um, when we start touching scroll 2, that event doesn't get triggered. This event here no longer gets triggered, so scroll 2, and it doesn't scroll unless we're touching this element right here, not the new scroll 2. So essentially, that's without this not scrolled right here. This is the correct code. Like this is what the code should be. However, we need to have another event for scroll 2, and both of them are exactly the same. The only reason we have duplicate events is because of bounding, really. So whether we touch scroll 1 or 2, they need to do exactly the same thing. So they behave no differently. So I'm gonna paste in the correct code. So as you can see, we have scroll. This is a normal event, but then I duplicated it. The duplicates are exactly the same for a reason, because scroll 1 and scroll 2 are always going to be updating like this, but we want to do it regardless of which scroll we happen to be touching at any given moment. And also, I realized that I could use a Fitbit simulator, which is going to be a lot faster than using the Fitbit itself. It'll install faster, stuff like that. So I'm going to launch Fitbit simulator. I've actually used it for a while, but I, for some reason, didn't think of it last time. So I'm going to run it on the simulator. It works good on there, but I haven't tested it on the main Fitbit yet. So at this point, it's just running idle now. So I can go here, and it's even got the phone part of it too. So that's cool. So if I want to simulate the companion, so it builds just as long as it would normally take, but it installs so much quicker, doesn't it? So now I can go like this. It doesn't randomly teleport. Oh, and I can actually show you the screen here too. And it scrolls beyond. So these are two different text areas, and they both work just as well, as you can see, because the events are exactly the same. So if we want to create a third one, then we have to like add a third one to all the events. First, second, and third need to exist for all of them, and the proper events will trigger at the proper time. So what I think it would make sense to do is, since we got so many lines here that are always going to be the same, put it into a function, because otherwise we're going to be repeating ourselves a lot. Now here, this is only one line of code, so I probably wouldn't even bother with that. But what I think we should do is, I guess I'll do it up here. I'll create a function called scroll mouse move, and essentially, since these are exactly the same, I'll just paste that in there, and then we'll call that function. So let me make sure my indenting's right. So I guess I'll just copy and paste that. Oh, then of course, same thing down here. In theory, that should work exactly the same, but see how it simplifies stuff? We do unfortunately have to have duplicate events as far as I'm aware, but there might be an easier way. Like if it was like an if statement in a sense. Also, the console log I had with app started. See how quickly that installs. Um, yeah, this console log right here, there's no point for it. By the way, some of the other stuff that I have on here, I will explain, like the get time function. I'll be explaining that because that's something we are going to use. So anyway, this, oh, all right. Um, so I think we're going to want to just pass in the event like this. No big deal. Because I forgot it's not a global variable and stuff. Yeah, there. Now it works just as well. But it's going to be a lot easier to create more text areas if we want to create even more yet. Now this, I don't know exactly what error that is. Maybe it'll go away when we display the correct data. So yeah, I'll be explaining what some of the stuff does. Oh, so I was actually trying to figure out exactly how this works. I think I got a pretty good idea. So the MDY variable is essentially the Y position that's being touched at any given moment, because the way it scrolls is relative to where we were first touching. So MDY, see right there, down in that corner, Y is currently 186. Well, based on that, 186 to 146, I know for a fact that I scrolled 40 based on that, right? Since if I store 186 and I can see that now it's 146, I scrolled 40. And the event probably triggers several times, however often the screen updates if I had to guess. But you can, but that's what the MDY is. Whatever Y is, whenever, yeah, the screen Y position essentially. So that's all MDY is. And of course, this is the stored position for. Oh, and Y2, that's no longer relevant because I could just do Y plus whatever. It's always going to be offset by some amount. I would add like another parameter in the function for the offset, but I'm always going to be like duplicating here, right? And I'll have to duplicate one place. That function actually kind of helps us already, so there's no point in doing that. So yeah, so this is like the Y position that it actually is at. The scroll 2 is always going to be based on scroll's position. It's always going to be offset by some amount regardless of what happens. Of course, there's probably a better approach to solving this problem, but this is how I'm doing it. Like actually getting the messenger to work. After all, I've got code that can supposedly break up messages and send a little bit at a time, but like I said, I'm not using that anymore, so that's irrelevant. So, sorry I'm talking a lot. You could probably get some stuff done at this point. So let's see if we can actually, if it solves the original problem. So, so we determined that we could do like 2000%. Let's try 2500, just see if that works. Not sure why I disconnected. It's probably the same reason this randomly drops out. 2500 is invalid. We're just gonna keep. I could probably do 2000 and just call it good. Yeah, 2000 will work fine. Right. That's not erroring out. And I did 2000 there as well. So of course nothing visually changes yet. But that's only because of what's actually being displayed here. So of course I'm not gonna be maxing out what I'm actually storing exactly, but this will allow me to get pretty far. Um, Wait a minute. I was just looking at this for loop. Oh, right. 0 to 5, 5 to 10, sure. Um, so, why don't we take out the second number just because I want to see how far we can go with the first. I think it was like 230 or something. Yeah, what's nice is with the simulator, I can actually show you. And of course, I wish I could scroll with the mouse wheel in the same way. Um, so up to 230. Oh, now we're at the end, so now I can no longer scroll back. That's a little bit of a problem. I mean, it's not. See, the thing is, if I all of a sudden went beyond the log, I have no way of ever scrolling back up. All of a sudden, I've lost the log for the day. Do I want that? I don't think so. So, um, I would almost consider having an entire scroll that won't store any text at all whatsoever. It's just for scrolling safety. Maybe I could have a beginning and end. No, beginning is probably not necessary. I just want to make sure I can scroll at all times and that I don't lose it. I can't just like trigger an event in general. Can I? Because technically that would solve the whole problem with needing all these different events, but now let's just work with this. Or if it was, is there some other event that we could do that could reset the position worst case? Is there like a good event that would be easy to program? Of course, I could try adding a button, but I don't really have an interest in doing that. Sense doesn't even have more than one button exactly either, so that's not a great option. I was thinking about those jokes that I practically accidentally made with Fitbit. So the Fitbit Sense needs to get some sense into it, and I was talking about how ironic it was that about the whole device failing just a little after the warranty. The Ionic doing that is very ionic. Unbelievable, Fitbit. Yeah, you should be careful if you don't want those kind of jokes to happen. So anyway, so we could go up to 230. So I wonder what y is equivalent to there. Would that be like 1,000? Let's just give it a shot once. So 231, I guess. So that's equal to 231, and then so it literally goes from 0, so it can actually store 231. That's gonna go from 231 to what, 462. Then numbers 2 becomes that, and then we'll actually log it. Oh, and there is actually a keyboard shortcut for commenting. You can press when I think it's actually control then the slash or question mark key, but on Mac I'm using the Win key, which is like command. It's actually considered a super key. That's kind of a universal term, I think. Linux called it a super key, Mac called it command, Windows called it Win. Trying to think of what Chrome OS was calling it. think they have a special term for that, but I can't remember for sure. So, should we see if. I don't think the bounding is going to be correct. Most likely they're going to overlay each other. Oh, yeah. So, it only goes up to 34. So, 1,000 goes up to 34. And it was on like the equivalent of maybe 9. Um, which is like plus 225. Is that like 8,000 or something? Surprised we didn't get an error. I thought we got an error because of them overlaying last time. I'm surprised how quickly the app was installing. It'd be crazy if we nailed the formula. We most definitely did not. It's less than 8,000. See how we barely pulled that down? 5,000, I guess. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't think of the simulator last time. So we're figuring out the bounding, I guess, really. This clock is probably gonna have to go. Okay, so that's in the way. Oh, we can figure out how the formula. So that's around 172. 1,000 brings it from 172 to, and this is very rough. From on Mac, you can drag windows from pretty much anywhere, and it's a little bit annoying sometimes. 172 to 207. 207 minus 172. 35. So 1,000 is equivalent to about 35, roughly. So 207. 1,000. Oh, that's a good drawing program on Mac. GIMP, I guess. Windows, I like to use Paint and stuff, but I really don't like GIMP. But that's one of the only choices for Mac. GIMP just has a steep learning curve, and it's kind of making me miserable trying to use it. If you're miserable using it, you're definitely not alone. It's got a lot of functionality, but it's kind of got a steep learning curve. Someone I know feels exactly the same way about Inkscape. See, I'm trying to figure out where's the paintbrush tool. See, look at that. You think that the default tool would be the paintbrush, but no. Maybe it memorizes what you do last. That's not even what I used last, though, I don't think. Where's the... See, what... Okay, so... I was saying 1,000 is equivalent to 35, while... So essentially, 1,000 is equivalent to 35, right? Well, I'm going from 207 to 230. Yeah, 230. So 230 minus 207. That's about 24, 1 over. So then I could go like 24. Then I could cross multiply and divide. So 24,000 divided by 35. About 685. This is really a rough estimate. So another 685 is roughly what we want. So 6685. See how close that is. I always like to do math like that sometimes just to see how close things end up getting. I drag my OBS window up here just so it's a lot easier to see. And I have another Chrome window open here. I'm just going to minimize that. Alright, I apologize. I feel like I'm dragging things right now. I don't even know why, I just do. Did I adjust this? It would sure be nice if I could scroll. A little bit more, so we can set the Y position right here, looks like. So it's 6,700. I'm gonna do like 6,800, and then here I'll temporarily change it to, so that's supposed to be 125 by default. Well, that broke stuff. Yeah, maybe I wanna just change that to 6,800 because yeah, even if it doesn't move through right away, it will when the scroll event triggers. Oh dear, that really wasn't. I tried to see if I could save time by scrolling, but as you can see, it did the exact opposite. Sometimes when you try to save time, you'll find that the exact opposite ends up happening. I had that happen earlier today. Today I was trying to, you know how you can like hold Alt and type numbers on the numeric keypad to type in ASCII characters? As far as I'm aware, that's not possible on Mac, so I created a text document for someone where I did it on a Windows machine and did the first 256 characters using Alt and then that numeric keypad. Anyway, the reason why that's relevant is because I wanted to see if I could create an AutoHotkey script that typed up the entire text document where it says like 1 equals a smiley face, 2 equals whatever the other smiley face is, and so on. Well, it's easy to do out the first 10. The thing that makes this tricky is it has to use the numeric keypad. It can't use the numbers up on top. So we're kind of out there. I tried a whole bunch of different potential solutions and none of them worked. Like, if only there was a way to type multiple numbers on the numeric keypad at once. So my idea was also to create a loop for all the single digit numbers, all the double digit numbers, and the triple digit that I had to do. And I was going to try to split the number into individual variables that I could reference so that it types one number on the keypad at a time. But that didn't work either. If you guys happen to have any idea what would have worked, feel free to let me know. I'd be curious, but that's an example of where I could have saved time just manually doing all the characters. That's what I ended up doing in the end because I could only do the first 10 characters. 0 was null, so that barely counts. But you get the idea. Oh wow. So maybe it really should be 6,700. So technically I shouldn't be doing this with numbers because what I should be more concerned about is the actual data that we're dealing with. I think I'm going to take out that. The only reason I want that time there is because, oh, you can barely even tell. Sweet. Okay, my question is when I log all the data, will everything be on one line? Also, I was thinking the time would be nice only because first of all, if you exit the app, then um, the app, well, then it loses all the data that was recorded. There's probably a way to have it persistent, but I don't know how. Um, you know, how long would it take to implement that? Fitbit SDK persistent data. Oh, so realistically, um, this would probably be worth doing. If this is all there is to it, then that's worth doing. Because if I actually close the app or something and I lose the entire day's worth of data just like that. But let's figure out how I'm going to store the data first of all, because if I can do that, then I can get it back. So it's really almost like retrieving stuff from an INI file in a sense. It's too bad that I can't like access local storage in a like on the computer or something where I could just pull up the data. Because honestly, that would be even easier yet. But okay, how much data can it store at once though? Fitbit max size. Because there might be a maximum amount of data that honestly I think at this point it's probably we're better off trying to actually do it to get an answer to that question. Okay, so let's see here. Later on we could figure out what this error is, but it doesn't seem to be interfering with what we're doing. Um, so what I was thinking is if X was, or if Y was a certain value and the clock could disappear, and then if it wasn't, then you see what I'm saying? Uh, and honestly, we would only have to store it in the first one because that's the only time we're ever going to be at the top. So we could put that specifically in the first event. So Y starts out as 125, right? So I think anything higher than that, the clock should not show. And we could have that in the mouse move event. Sorry, I'm kind of being a little bit of a feature freak right now. I probably shouldn't even be trying to mess with this. But, yeah, what we could do is if y is less than or equal to 125, then we can have it display whatever the time is. Oh, but then the time's not always going to update. Shoot. I mean, I guess it's only worth... We can always tap it if we want it to update. We can wriggle it. See, that's how these kind... You ever wonder why certain apps have the weirdest glitches ever? Well, when you learn the process of making them, you see how that is. Like, why doesn't the time update unless I tap on the screen? Well, this, what I'm doing right now, kind of explains why. So, otherwise, it's just going to be an empty string for now. So let's see if that works. I think that's a pretty simple way to implement it. We're only ever doing it in the first event. I am tempted to put this in a function, but it's only ever going to be in this function. So time's not there. Ooh. Oh, it's supposed to be MDY. No. Let's use this variable, because MDY would otherwise have to keep updating. It is nice when you get an error, then you can find it almost right away, I will admit. Whoa. What? I'm not used to having it update that frequently. Oh no, and screen Y isn't even what I want. I do want it to be based on that Y position. So now we're going to be based on where I'm tapping. Kind of wish it was, but the other way around. That doesn't seem right. And 125 is kind of a sort of a ridiculous number. I really should not be obsessing over little things like this. I mean, this is kind of cool though, right? The clock only shows if the bounding's decent, but it also only updates if, well, since Y is a global variable, then what normally updates the time? So the time clock.text, that's just essentially function update time. I think that's an interval that goes off every 30 seconds. I'll put it down here because would I just do update time? If Y is greater than or equal to 100, then do that. Now the interval that I normally use for updating time, update, come on, time. Oh, so it only updates once a minute, it looks like. I suppose we could have this run then. So the time will update, but all on its own, as well as when we're tapping, right? And honestly, where we used to set it, it wouldn't hurt to do it. So update time essentially sets it, right? Not really paying attention to the order a whole lot. Pretty cool, huh? Only if the bounding is decent will the time show then. So I don't want all these numbers. I want it to display the actual data. So well, here's a little sneak preview of what the AutoHotkey script looked like. I started out writing it on this thing, then of course I went to Windows to write the rest of it. This isn't even the most updated script, but essentially This is the idea of that script that types the ASCII characters. So it runs for the first 10 characters with the Alt key and stuff. And this is what I would have done, but it didn't work for some reason. Numpad can't do like double digit or single digit on here. Oh, you can't have a space right here, otherwise it won't work. It's supposed to be like that. That's what I ended up going with. So I could type the first 10 characters just fine, but none of these other ones. It just did weird stuff like you were pressing Alt over and over again. So anyway, with this script, see, well, the data we're collecting is essentially going to be, and this cent is no longer relevant because it's just displaying results. Time, heart rate, XYZ for movement. So let's get it to display that. And I think I'll keep that numbers variable. Why wouldn't I want to do that and keep things simple? So essentially, get time. I suppose I could explain that function real quickly. So get time is actually a pretty simple function. It involves regular expressions, but the idea is really simple. So essentially, undo is really nice. So essentially it creates a new date, and it shows like the date and the time and all sorts of stuff like that. The regular expression filters out the time only, like as in that there's going to be like a date and a time, but this regular expression means filter just this part, the time. And then of course that's what the expression itself is, and then it executes that expression. It essentially removes everything else. That's why I use exec instead of match. So I mean, really, it's creating a new date variable, then using regular expressions on it to make it this format. That's pretty much all there is to it. So yeah. So that's the format of the time. Essentially, it's going to show the time logged first. So get time plus, I think what I'll have it do is, so it'll do the time, semicolon, heart rate. I think that's how I'm going to have it actually display the values. And normally the XYZ is this really long decimal place, but I've got a function already. We'll go over that when we get there. That's probably going to actually be the hardest part of tonight yet. But essentially that's how we're going to do the XYZ part. I think that's what I was saying. Get time plus, let's just make up some heart rate. The worst case is it'll be triple digit. So I want a semicolon and then some triple digit number. And then this is not going to be triple digit either, but let's assume it is. I just want to make sure it would fit on the screen if it were that big. So like that. So will that format work? I just want to see what it'll look like. And it's using a literal semicolon, so we gotta escape the semicolons by using a backslash. So I'm not using a semicolon in the way you normally would. Oh, and actually that may not be the issue either. That might be the issue, I don't know. I'm just going to duplicate the line in case it is. But what I think is actually more likely going on is, oops. concatenation. And actually, that is going to end up having to be separate when we use actual numerical values, but for now, that's the format I'm going to put it in. I don't think that, yeah, that's what the issue was. I don't need to escape a semicolon if it's in quotes. That's actually a good thing because I think it would commonly be used in a string. But some characters, like a backslash itself, that's got to get escaped, so you do a double backslash to do a single backslash. So, not bad, not bad. And let's see how the time gets out of the way. Perfect, huh? Because during the night, I'm going to want to be able to look at the time while the app is open. And the app has to be open for this to work. That's why the time exists in the first place. So, yeah, essentially we're going to be logging data every 30 seconds. But I think that's how I'm going to have it formatted. I'll know what that means. It's time, heart rate, XYZ, or Z for you non-Americans. So I like how the time just hides when it's gonna be in the way. I'm just a little proud of that extra little feature. Of course, it kind of looks like I should shift this over a little bit, but is that really necessary? I certainly could with spaces, but I don't think that's, well, it would be kind of nice if it fit on there nicely. Macro is the usual period. Let's try that once. And then what I'm going to do next is, see, that looks pretty nice, doesn't it? For the way I have to log it, it'll work pretty well. Doesn't look like a log, like there should be square brackets around the time probably, but I don't care. So that's the format of the data. Okay. Let's test it on the actual Fitbit, because something that works on the simulator may not work on the actual device, like when the position kept teleporting. So since there's no blue light filter, I'm gonna wear this so you can see what time it is for me right now from the top right. So let's get the Fitbit connected, and I charged it all the way. Even though I was at like 70% before, I charged it all the way. So we're connecting to the developer bridge now. Why don't we just have some silence for 10 or 20 seconds while I get this working. Okay, we're connected. So now I'm going to try it on the real device. That's cool, it's already built. That'll be one Pro, I guess. So everything looks like you would expect. Wow, wait, what? Is it not showing as much data, or am I scrolling through it so much faster? That can't be. Um, Sorry, I just need to see if it's doing all the numbers it's supposed to. It is, looks like. And it goes beyond 230, so the positioning's good. So it looks like, however, I don't know exactly what's going on here. How about, I just want to kind of see what number it's doing exactly. Because I have a feeling it's not doing all the numbers it's supposed to. Oh, that's... I was kind of hoping to do this before the get time. Boy, concatenation can be kind of a pain sometimes when you do it like this. So I got up to 27. See, that text length has to do with the number of characters, I think. I'm gonna take this off for now just because it's kind of in the way, and I'll start using the simulator because it's gonna be much faster and more convenient, and you'll get to see it. See, this number right here is which number we're on. See, I think the text length correlates with that. See, if I do like 2048, that should be like up to probably 64 or something. Yeah, we had to get it all the way down to 230. 231 minus 64. 167 divided by, it does like 32 at a time. So you gotta do 5 times. Let's times 2048. I don't know if that's the exact. Let's do like 10,700. I sincerely hope that it supports that amount without erroring out. That looks good. So of course we're going to want to shift those numbers too. So can we do 11,000? I just want to make sure there's enough maximum length. For sure there's an easier way to scroll down and all that. That was essentially a clip that keeps everything in place. It didn't stay in place itself. That should secure it a little bit more. It's all good. So that doesn't interfere with anything below it. So that's fantastic. Um, I'm so glad that it supports that kind of text length. So obviously that I was really just for counting. So I'm gonna need to control separate variables for that. I would like to see that this goes as far as we want as well. Yeah, that idea of creating multiple text areas is actually sort of genius, even though probably more like a patch on a tire than an elegant solution. So I may want to do up to 1,200 data points per night. Well, it's not going to quite go that high, but it could go up to that. I want to be able to handle that worst case. So 3, 4, so 231. Well, 1,200 divided by 231. So I should create 6 of them because we want to have enough buses to hold all the students. 5, obviously, that won't quite hold everyone, even though 6 is a little bit more than needed. It has to be that kind of round figure so it can hold everybody. So how long have we been doing this for? According to YouTube, 57 minutes. So this isn't real data yet. I just want to get the formatting all figured out. So how easy is it to create 6 more of these? Well, let's find out. So essentially all I have to do is three, 4, 5, 6. 350 obviously wasn't quite the right number. We're not. Are we concerned about those Y positions? So if this is Y plus 6,700, so 6,700 plus 125, 6,825. So technically, I think I'm gonna set it to that. Plus 6,700. Shoot. Plus 6,700. 13,525. Can I trust my memory for the other 3? 13,500 plus so 13,525 plus 6,700, 20,225, 26,925. I don't trust myself with 3. 2225 and 26,925, 2225, 26,925. I feel like I was barely remembering that. Plus 6,700, 33,625. So we're gonna have to get the multiple of that. So essentially 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we are going to have to create more of those. I'm kind of tempted to do this in an array. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be the worst idea, actually, to just have it in an array. It can be an array of strings. How about if we just have that as an optimization for now? So 6700. I could probably trust my memory with multiples like this. Plus 6700, 13400, 2100, 26800. I don't trust my 13400, 2100, 26800. I don't trust myself beyond 3 numbers like this, plus 6700, because my memory is more of associative memory. And I think it works so well with numbers because each digit only has 10 possibilities. So it's not like memorizing a word list where there's hundreds of possibilities. I suck at memorizing word lists unless I use a pegging technique. Daniel Love has this lucid dream memorization technique called the peg technique. I would recommend doing research on that, but that takes a lot of time for me. I mean, that takes a lot of time to do. But it's really effective when you get a system set up. I think you have to actually get his book to read about that. I could just pull up his book on here, or the physical copy, which is back at home. Actually, a friend might have it, or I don't know. But I am not going to do that because I respect Daniel Love and I would not do that to him. But that's not the point. 3, 4, 5, 6. See, I don't have to. Well, I do have to do this. Oh yeah, remember how I was talking about the whole bus thing? Well, that'll make it so I don't scroll beyond the bottom because the bounding will still work out nicely. So 3, 4, 5. What? Oh, screen Y. 6. And see, this is. You see how much more repetitive it could have been if it could have been so much more repetitive if I did not put this into a function. So, and this only has to exist for the first event, so I think it would be kind of nonsensical to put a little thing like that into a function, although it would look nicer, but I'm not concerned about that. I care more about functionality at the moment. So, let's see here. Where do we, oh. Probably wouldn't hurt to why don't we do a double for loop for this? You get rid of these comments. I don't need them anymore. So for what j equals 0, j is less than 6 since we're doing 6 of them, j plus plus, I'll put that inside of here. Jeepers, the way you lose indentation like that. So I'll just have I be sort of repetitive like that. It'll be like 1 to 231, but then we'll be able to easily tell that it started over, right? And well, I was gonna have it actually do like one of each, but then all of a sudden we're messing with 6 variables, and we got 231 times 6. This is where the array, the whole array thing would be kind of nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, why don't we convert numbers into an array? I think that would simplify that, because arrays are good for iteration. So yeah, that we can set it based on index j. So numbers index j plus equals whatever. And then this would be index 0, numbers index 1, to we're counting from 1 there, so I got a little confused for a split second. 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's it. Now we should, in theory, be able to store all the data we could possibly want to store. What? The initial positions are not right. What determines the initial positions of everything? Because this should make it all work, right? I mean, I moved the mouse, so why shouldn't that work? Oh, did I create the log? Oh, I did. Did I? Yeah, I set the IDs. There must be some sort of ID or something that I'm forgetting somewhere. I don't know. There's gotta be something that I'm forgetting. Oh, that doesn't look very nice. Why is that first number undefined? Numbers index j. I'm a little confused as to what was happening. Wonder why I would be defined the very first time. That is odd. Let's not worry about I right now, though. Let's just do that. What the actual data is going to look like. Oh, and yeah, because it goes from 0 to 230. That's 231 total. That's where I would say less than equals 230. Why is there a huge undefined right there? Is it because there's supposed to be something there as it is? Like, it wouldn't make any difference if I went like that, would it? Well, I guess that issue is no big deal if hang on, now why is that one doing it? Sorry, I'm sorry about being so quiet and not exactly doing the funnest stuff right now. I do kind of wish there was a number here. Let's see here. Plus I plus, I don't know if this is right. Oh, yeah, I had a little syntax error, so shut up. Alright, I'm just going to scroll through and see if it actually goes as high as I want. Would you stop falling? What is the most secure way to clip this? It's making its way off. Guess there isn't really one. Other than having the orientation stay how it is. If I got rid of that space, I'm then gonna scroll through it and can meditate or whatever for a couple minutes while I do that. Well, it seems to be displaying all the data just fine. That's fantastic. Oh, okay, so I have to make sure that the data doesn't go all the way to the end yet. Oh, right, it's not actually going to be this much data. Pretty much guarantee that. So that's the only reason I have that number on there. So in place of that, let's do a bunch of spaces like that. Like that. Unfortunately, I don't know what to do about that initial problem. I don't know why that's happening, but because I literally have this Y position adjusted, so there's no reason it should all show up on the screen at once like that. Oh, wait, is it? It just, this just needs, this is what actually moves it down in the first place. Um, so technically, yeah, no, that has to run in order for it to space it out. That still doesn't make sense either. Well, either way, um, we got a solution for the data. I do kind of wish that I could minimize the risk of it going down too far. But I think that's just a chance I'm going to take. So that's the format that the data is going to be in. Yeah. Yeah, so now let's get it to report the actual data. And then we're going to have to actually make it report. Let's actually make it so that it reports every couple seconds. So that's what we would use a set interval for. So am I using the interval ID variable? Because that was the first interval I created on here. Doesn't look like it. But realistically, I should probably create another interval. And this for loop was just to add a bunch of placebo data. Now suppose I want to add real data. So I'm going to have this variable called data point, which keeps track of where we are with the data we've added. So to add data. Oh, and actually this is what I was going to use. And I'm not going to be using this array anymore. Wait, so every time we add some data, we got to update the text. So I think we're going to want to, can we update it all at once? Or do I have to like do specific functions? So we have add data, update data. I'll start out with that. So This is an interval that I already have actually, so let's add a new piece of data every second. I just want to see how it works. So essentially the data I want to add is that. However, obviously, how is this going to work? Well, let's calculate J. And let's keep using the J variable. How about that? And let's calculate it so that so I want it to be 0 when the number is between 0 to 131 or 231, or 1. I think we could floor a decimal number. So J equals data point. That's the variable that keeps track of. Yeah, data point equals 0. My code is really messy. I do not recommend coding this messy in general. I'm definitely showing a bad example. So J equals data point floor. I think you have to use math.floor. Data point divided by 231. Is that right? I kind of wish there was a good way to test it. And then console log J. So if I were to call like, let's get rid of that. Add data 0. I just want to see if the J is correct. This is what ties in with testing one thing at a time. J is not defined. Oh, sure. Shoot. I feel weird using J, but why not do it? For now, hey, wait. Yeah, no, let's do that. Let's just declare it for now. J is 0. Okay. If it's 51, let's say, did it really run again? Oh, yeah, that's correct. So 230 should still report 0. So it's 0 to 230. That's 231. Yeah, so now if I say 231 right here, this 0 should become a 1. If it's working right. Yes, it is. Cool. So that is working how I want. So that'll give us the right index. So yeah, the number plus equals whatever. And I don't mind manually putting the strings where we declared it. It's a workaround to that problem, and it's always going to be that way. So I'm fine doing it that way. Is it 1 right now? Oh, I didn't run it just now, did I? So I'm going to add one of these every single time. And then anything beyond 1200, I think, would be a good time to stop. So if and then this becomes, what's it called? Where we are, data point. So data point, yeah, data point, sure. So if data point is like greater than 1200, we're essentially just gonna stop collecting data, which we can do by saying if data point is greater than 1200. That didn't work. If data point is greater than 1200, then actually, since it's only one line, I think I'm going to do it like this. Clear interval, add data int. The only reason you have to have a variable set to an interval is so you can reference it like this. So now I want to clear that interval. So it should only collect up to that, and it's not even going to go that far. I never thought of that. How it could keep going even when I want it to stop. It'll just stop when it gets to 1200. So I'm not super concerned about that. I just want to access, all I'm trying to do is access the data. So yeah, I hope you're learning something here. I know I always do when doing these projects. Oh, wrong Fitbit. Oh, and then of course we gotta update. So whenever we add data, we want to update data. That's the whole reason I made the function. Cool. So we can seamlessly scroll as it's adding data points. Cool. Awesome. So we don't have to worry about the bound on the end because there's going to be more data points. So I just want to collect data every 30 seconds. So I change that to 30,000. Then it'll collect data every 30 seconds. So we got the logistics of logging the data all set pretty much. But now, so now it's not going to collect data for every 30 seconds, right? So I can update all the numbers. That's cool. I probably should realistically only do one at a time, figure out which one to update, but this makes it easier for programming. Just have it update all of them. And that's what that function's meant to do. So, honestly, this error does kind of concern me a little bit. 33,625. Is that an invalid? Has that always been invalid, or did it just become invalid recently? I wouldn't worry about it because it can probably become that. I mean, we were able to see everything. So now the first number, invalid attribute data size, and I don't know what that is. See, it's collecting data points, and how I like how our clock gets out of the way. Would that be weird if I made an anime so it was like, and then it comes back when it's able to or something? It just appears and then it essentially dodges. It might even dodge upwards, I don't know. And you try to see if you can hit it, and then then the screen could like turn red or green like victory, like you, I don't know, I could make it into a game almost. uh, so yeah, so we have a way to log the data. That's cool. So the time will update every 30 seconds if we don't touch it. But if we do touch it, then it'll update as we're touching it. Kind of a battery saving thing, maybe. But if we're touching the screen, we're not saving battery anyway. So yeah, let's in the meantime, let's run it on my sense, just so we know it's working. But we can do some development while it runs on mine with the developer bridge. To be honest with you, I wish I would have thought of that. There's been many times where I kind of wish I could have something run at the same time as I'm developing. I could use the simulator at the same time as I'm doing that. That would solve that whole problem. Okay, so this is connected. So let's deploy the app. So far, so good. Alright. So now it's up to the actual data collection. And then that's all we're going to have to do. I can call it a night. How long have we been live streaming now? About an hour and a half. About the same amount of time as last time. But now we're going to go a little beyond. So that's kind of exciting that it can add data points and we can scroll, because scrolling is actually something I've wanted to do for the longest time, but I just didn't have the right kind of mind or mindset to try figuring that out. So that's pretty exciting. That's something I've never been able to get before. Ideally, I wouldn't have to log data on the screen like this, but whatever. And if I just wanted to be able to store one value, I could technically use a two-dimensional array and actually no, everything is all in one array anyway. No, I wouldn't need a two-dimensional array. Everything's all in one array, so if we were to use this, then we could just store that variable. That'd be cool. Forgot about the fact that I was live. Huh. Okay. So, essentially, so the part with the Y being like this, I figure this will make it work out even if this happens to be wrong. Oh, you know what? With all those data points appearing where they were, I wonder if it's because of that one error. And it doesn't even matter because it's not going to start out with that much data anyway. Would local storage work even if I modified the program? Because if so, then I could change the programming and still have the data. That would be kind of cool. The local storage, that looks like it's supposed to be really simple. If it doesn't end up being simple, then I'm dumb. Like, really dumb. There should be a way to make it pretty simple. So, well, I feel like switching my mic because I'm one of those dumb YouTubers that's totally unprofessional. No, I'm not going to do that. Interesting how the key to switch isn't working anymore, even though it was before. Very strange. What if I have both microphones at the same time? How do you like that? They can hear me sometimes, and other times not so much. Sorry if I make you cringe. Don't worry, I won't do it again. You got to see what that would be like here. Also, I'm using a different fan to cool my Thunderbolt dock than I was doing before. You notice a difference from that compared to the first stream? Or does it not really make a difference? So if not, then I don't see why I would need to bring my fan into this extra room, or into this room. Let's log data. So let's get it to log real data now. We're not logging real data yet. Except for the time. The time, that's real. But now let's make the rest of it just as real as the time is right now. Where are we though? Right here. So we've gotten data collected. It works just as well on here. That's cool. So now let's get heart rate. I think heart rate should be pretty simple. Because I have the permission required for that. Fitbit SDK retrieve heart rate. I think it's pretty simple to do. So, oh, no, this is not what I'm looking for. Fitbit SDK sensor. Am I seriously spelling that wrong? Sensors API. Heart rate. So, I think we're going to have to import that library. This really is not necessary. So where I create the gyroscope, right here. I'm fine with that variable name. So let's see here. Might as well start the heart rate sensor right there. So then HRM.heartrate is the actual heart rate. So add data. The heart rate plus that. So let's see if this works. Oh, and sensors, we can play around with the heart rate. Now let's see, this is where I might consider doing it just once every second. And that's where I would have comments like this. So now it's real heart rate. See? That's about, I think I had that, or 51 this morning. Like I remember being really tired this morning and I had like 51, I think. But yeah, now it's recording the actual heart rate. I, unless you're exercising like Olympic level stuff, I'd be concerned about that level. But yeah, so heart rate, it collects heart rate data now. Now we just got to get the gyroscope stuff. So all this, essentially, the reason it's called accelerometer right now is just because that's what I had at first, and I didn't feel like changing the variable name. So this is um, so what I originally use it for is if I have um, a sleep parasomnia that occurs. So sometimes I'll talk in my sleep, like if I with my very mixed up sleep schedule that I have sometimes, as well as not properly winding down. I'm sure that plays a huge factor in it. So if I were to do those things, it shouldn't happen, I don't think. But I have an app that tries detecting when this kind of stuff occurs, because it's a time when I should be normally dreaming, but if you're familiar with sleep paralysis doesn't kick in sometimes at the beginning of the night. And I think that's just because of how mixed up my sleep schedule is. It causes what's known as atonia misfirings. It essentially, sleep paralysis is literally muscle atonia that paralyzes the muscles when we dream, so that most likely because so we don't act out our dreams during the night, right? Um, but sometimes I essentially dream in this real world, and that's most likely because sleep paralysis didn't kick in when I was supposed to, and that's what causes this whole parasomnia. So I tried to make an app that detects motion, and this is it. Um, so if it detects, that's where this original program is derived from. So if it detects motion, it'll tell me that the parasomnia is occurring, and to just go right back to bed, essentially. Like, snap out of it, go back to bed. Um, there's some things I was going to do with that, but I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to risk spreading mind viruses, because we're supposed to have a logical, reasonable approach when you're talking to people in public, and spreading the wrong idea could be just as bad as taking someone else's medicine and then getting sick from it. So I don't want to do that. That's why doctors wouldn't diagnose you in public, because that's just no good in general. For that same reason, that's why I'm not going to talk about stuff I'm doing with this parasomnia, because it's not going to apply to everybody, and I might accidentally spread a potential mind virus. So, anyway, essentially it detects a certain amount of motion over time. So, it was using Y and Z, but I think what I'm going to do is create an array for X. So this for the X, Y, Z coordinate, essentially what this, there's some code that I may just consider taking out, because I have it all the way down here commented out as well. I still have it. Actually, no, I don't. I do have it in my original program, of course, but actually we could just comment this out, because maybe I want to have the logic be a little different, because I'm not really doing an overtime thing in the same way as I'm doing this, so I'm not going to program it like that. So What this does is it gets rid of the decimal, makes it a reasonable readable number. So I'll just create like move x equals, I bet now it's logging stuff more than it should or something. That can't be all 1200. Oh, so we do have a problem. Why don't we have it show what data point is at the moment? So console log data point. And then we'll program while we're doing this. Wait, data point isn't incrementing, that's what's wrong. It's only going up to 230. So every time we add some data, I think down here we'll do data point plus plus. I forgot to do that. That's what's wrong. See, that's why console log can be really useful and why it's important to break things down step by step. So, yeah, essentially we're causing an infinite loop. So, yeah, I think just all I'm gonna do is, let's leave it there just for now. That's why I like to add these long comments, just so it gets my attention that I need to change it when I'm like actually ready to use the app. I just want to see that it goes above 230 and stuff like that. So, sensor data, let's just see how it actually works. And I don't know what any of this data means for anything yet. That's why I'm collecting it for analytical purposes, and then from there I may purpose it to do something. If I find any meaningful data, I might not, and this project is kind of pointless, but if I do find meaningful data, then great, I'll be able to do what I want, but data collection is this hard. I'm spending several hours on nothing but data collection, and that's programming for you. So, I can't believe I've been forgetting to increment the data points. Unbelievable. But yeah, I think it only went up to 230. Then the buffer just went larger than it was supposed to. But it should be able to go up to 1200 as long as the data point variable goes up. Because that's how data point will then go to index 1, and then the log 2's text now goes to there. So it's logging numbers index 0. Well, if index 0 doesn't grow anymore, then that error won't happen. You know, I just want to see if it can actually go up as much as we want. So I think I'm going to do like 20 milliseconds. Hopefully that's not too much, but I just want to see how high it goes. Yeah, that'll be useful. So it does go above 230, which is where we were erroring out before. We're beyond what we got before. I know for a fact we are. I want to see if it goes to like 1200 or 1201. It's not a big deal. It's actually going to go to at least 1201. Yeah. Perfect. So it does essentially stop collecting data. Let's just do greater than or equal to. Why not? So yeah, that's cool. Now we can get rid of this. So let's see how much we can scroll. If we can scroll for like a really long time. Oh. So 230 points happen in about 5 seconds. So if we can go and let's go to like the second being 40, 41, 42 or something. Yeah, I know for a fact we went beyond 230, so our actual display logistics works good. So let's sensor data is the hardest part. If I was procrastinating on any part of this project, that's what it would be. But making this video kind of forces me to work on it. That's another reason why I like to do that. Oh, and this is X, Y, and Z. So let's just see what kind of data we're getting. So I think we'll console log that. Console log move X plus move Y. I think that's what I'll do. Oh, then it's actually not going to work. We don't need data collection to happen as quick as it is. I'll change it back to 30,000. So the accelerometer is not actually happening right now. So where do we add accel.start? So that's for movement. It's really a gyroscope because I initialized it right here. Not seeing any log data. Oh, why don't we do it on my real Fitbit now? So that's been logging data just fine, although maybe ran into that error that we had here before. Yeah, I don't like how messy this code is. When you code with a mess, you got so much stuff to keep track of. But some cases it'll probably work okay, like right now. Like if you're just kind of figuring out what you're doing, not good, but I feel like I'm rarely Googling stuff here, so if you find that you know what you're doing, that might be the only place where I would think it'd be acceptable. Now in a big business, you probably don't want to put your code at stake by doing that. I certainly would recommend that. Move X is not defined. Oh, great. So that's for text, I think. ACC. Well, I guess I'm going to define it here. So let move X, move Y, move Z. That'll solve that error that we're getting right there. So as you can see, we got 0, 0, 0, but when I move, then all of a sudden we got numbers that go up, right? So you can kind of see what X, Y, Z are doing, right? So that's movement. So I don't want to do it quite that frequently. I actually kind of want to, right, so can you do like 0.2? I've never tried that before. So it has to be, so 1 per second is the minimum. Well, yeah, once per second it looks like. Once per second is the, I'm just kind of wondering if it adds up all the motion before it ends up displaying it. Does it add up all the motion per time that it updates, or does it only do the motion at a given moment? So like 6. 13, 14. Yeah, see, it gets no motion in between time it updates. Haha, I snuck some motion and you didn't catch it. So, frequency matters in that sense. It's only doing whatever's happening at a given moment, it looks like. So we are going to need higher frequency for more accuracy. Now, the number that it actually displays on the final output, how do I want that to work exactly? Of course, I do have my whiteboard over here. If I wanted to do some brainstorming. Stuff happens, especially while live. So essentially, I just want to see what happens with movement over the course of a second. But since it collects data points, like at the moment the event triggers, it sees how much motion happens right there. So I can sneak in motion and it won't collect anything. Yeah, see? I snuck in a little bit of motion and then it did nothing. So if I want to track movement and get an idea on what's going on exactly, how do I want to do that? Do I want to collect like 10 data samples per second and then add them up? I was doing 5 before, but will that be accurate enough? I think 10 would be good accuracy wise. So I think I may end up doing 10. Would 10 work? See? There was no motion right there. That's pretty messed up. So no axis has motion like that. That's very strange. So it must be accurate down to decimal places, I guess. So what if I want it to be just a little bit more accurate? Can I like multiply it by 10 just to increase the accuracy a little bit? There's nothing special on the screen other than the log. Wow, yeah, that increases the sensitivity of motion. That could be useful, I don't know. And see, what I kind of wish is rather than having separate X, Y, Z, that's 3 data points just for motion. What if I want overall motion? Um, that could be useful. I could add another data point for all the motion combined. Add move X, move Y, move Z. Crazy how much more motion it reports now, isn't it? If I were to like multiply by 100, then the sensitivity is a lot. Being completely still would do quite a lot of motion too. I think times 10 is a good number most likely. With no motion at all, this is what happens. I'm just moving up a little bit. Crazy how much motion it reports, right? So you know where I'm looking, right? I'm looking down here where it's logging it. You know, the connection consistency is not too bad right there either. I'm curious, for those of you who actually end up watching this live stream, are you noticing, um, like when there's a connection inconsistency with the Fitbit and stuff, are you noticing the same consistency with the live stream as what the Fitbit does? Because if so, it's probably on the local end and not even the internet end. Because I've had issues with local stuff too. Like I'll do something on the local network and it'll be just as bad. Let's do times 10. I like how sometimes it doesn't matter what zero you delete, it accomplishes the same thing. I think that's pretty good. So I think I will have another data point for so actually, will that fit on the screen okay? Nah, I think I'll add it up myself if I need it. And it's not like I had to collect the perfect data on the first night. I may do this multiple nights and see if I can analyze the data and make anything of it. Because if I can, then yeah. Now, we gotta keep in mind that it's only recording data points every 30 seconds. That's going to be helpful though, because if I'm looking for correlations, having to look at like 30,000 data points just for a correlation, that would be kind of a pain. So, yeah, that would be super painful. So, um, how am I going to do this? 5 might be good enough if I am only recording motion every 30 seconds. So you see how much more motion there is when it does it on 5 for the frequency? Crazy, huh? So the sensors do work pretty quickly. Um, so let's see here. Wow, I like how the second keeps going forward and backwards. That's pretty crazy. That's probably going to happen with network connections, though. If you're trying to refresh something frequently, those kind of inconsistencies can happen. So, if you're writing a program that relies on speed, that's why you have to be as efficient as possible, because you could have an entire program glitch out just because the connection speed was slow. If it was fast, and all these glitches would happen. Can you imagine getting a runtime error all because the connection was just a little bit too slow, not a lot? Yeah, that could totally happen too. So I think what I'm going to do is add up all the sample points every 30 seconds. So if we're updating it 5 times a second, 5 times 30 is 150. So the number, oh dear. If I add up 150, I'm starting to want to just, let's do 2. That'll be maybe a nice comp. I'm just thinking about how many digits it could get up to if it was doing 150 data points for each thing that it collects. Because really, if we collect data every 30 seconds, that'll be 1,200 points for 10 hours probably. Tonight probably won't be that much, but I'm saying, like, if I manage to get to bed early, it could end up being around 10 hours of sleep pretty easily. But realistically, the amount of data that I'm actually going to, like, analyze and stuff, yeah. Of course, while this is happening, it's still logging stuff. Of course, the clock moves out of the way if I scroll up. Scroll down, it comes back. I think that'll be very convenient though, because I want to be able to tell what time it is without exiting the app. Oh, and are we going to want it to keep collecting data? Like if the data is incomplete and we close out the app and go back into it, are we going to want that? If so, then we're going to also have to store that data point variable. I think that's all that would be needed to resume, right? Because everything else is active data like that. Uh-oh. Well, the connection probably just sort of dropped out. The Fitbit screen's not coming on. Oh yeah, now it is. Fitbit works just fine. I think the connection randomly dropped out. Did it drop out for you guys too? That's kind of the question I was asking before. And maybe there's like a maximum amount that I can log at a given time. It's a connection. I was thinking maybe it's because it can't handle anything beyond 69 like last time, but I think it is a connection problem. I'm so glad that if there's a minor connection issue, it doesn't like end the whole stream, because that would be a little bit annoying. So, yeah. Um, Sorry about rambling so much. I'm forgetting what I'm actually trying to do. Yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll add up the data for each axis to record. Um, I'll just do 2 data points per second, probably, as a little bit of a compromise. I just have a feeling that some of them could be like 4 digits long over the course of 30 seconds. I'm just concerned about there potentially being that much motion with 5. I think 2 is a fairly good compromise, I guess. I don't know, and I might have to do some tweaking to make the data more optimal to read. And honestly, since the sleep chart seems to report every 30 seconds, like where the second is 0 and the second's 30, I may want to always have a report at the second being 0 and 30. So what I may end up wanting to do is, what's an interval that I am not using right now? Second check. So this is essentially it would start logging. So where does that? It would start logging if the second is 0 or 30. Only then. So I just did second check, second. So yeah, essentially I wanted to start logging when the second is 0 or 30. That's when it would start logging. Like, I don't want the second to be 50. I wanted to work with nice numbers. So in that case, so what am I calling the function? Check second. Check what second it is, right? So I could even go like this, I think. But no, I think I'll function check second. And then essentially only do this if get time how do I retrieve the second here? It might be a specific function. Get second. Fitbit SDK gets second. Fitbit SDK retrieve current second. So I may want to create another function that specifically gets the second. How much trouble could this possibly be? Get second. That's not what I called the thing up here though, is it? Check second. Ha. When you name stuff, it's ridiculous how close things can get. So, essentially I want to be like time equals that. And then I want to do like another regex for the second. I'll reuse that variable, but within the time, I want to get colon the number, one or more of them, the end of that, and then I guess I'll return exec on this time variable. I think that should get the second if I'm not mistaken. Why don't we log that? So console log that. And then we'll call get second. I'll use the simulator just because that's easier to connect right now. So error line 170. Oh, I have an incomplete statement right there. Yeah, so that's why I wrote that function in the first place. Get second. And I'm not using check second yet. So I don't think I need to worry about that because I haven't started the interval yet. Time is not let's say let. Okay. So it's retrieving the second, but I want the second all by itself. You know, we don't need that colon right here. That's unnecessary because I just wanted to make sure I'm always getting that end value. Yeah, there we go. That's getting the second all by itself. So we're getting the second. So when we run this function, it'll give us what the current second is. So we're running get second right there, but so we're running check second every second. Obviously, it's not going to line up perfect down to the second. Like, the second could be 30, but it could also be like 30.5 technically. I'm not concerned about that. This is going to be a lot more precise than whatever I was doing before. So data int equals what? Add data int. That's not what I'm doing. Add data int equals set interval. If get second equals 0 or get second equals 30. What am I even thinking here? Then we actually do want it to do that, but we also want to clear the interval for second check. Yeah, we want to clear that interval once we've done this, right? Because we don't want that interval to run forever. Clear interval. There was another place, yeah, right here. We added a clear interval for that too, so we're good. So if the second equals 0 or 30, then it'll start logging data. So it's not logging data anymore, is it? Let's see if it's actually logging at the ideal time. So how long have we been live streaming? Wow, 2 hours and 23 minutes. Crazy. So it won't log till the second becomes 30. Let's see if when it does log, the second actually is 30. So then the data will line up in the way that I want it to. That's essentially what I want to do. This is slowly falling off. So that's not working. Let's see what's wrong. Oh, I don't think anything was wrong. So if it's 30, it should start. Oh, okay, so it doesn't do it till 30 seconds later. That makes sense. I wouldn't really worry about trying to solve that problem. I mean, after all, I am gonna be very awake by the time it does start collecting data anyway. Yeah, that works. That does work just fine. It just took longer than expected, so when it does this, then it's not going to run right away. Unless I set it to 0, then set it to 30, but then I'd have to have a variable keeping track of whether I've set it to 30, so I'm not repetitively doing that. So got the data to line up with 30 seconds. That is something I wanted. Now we've probably got the display data working other than getting the accelerometer. So the frequency is now 2. But I want... So I think what I'm going to do is... so I don't want any of this to start until it starts collecting data. That's what that function would be good for. The thing that starts the data collection could also be where Yeah. Uh, so where does it start? Yeah, see, messy code will make stuff like this hard to find. Um, I'm searching through my code, which isn't really a good problem to have. So, technically, since this will only ever run once, that's when we can actually start the sensors. Um, yeah, because the only reason I moved that to here is because um, with the actual data, where are we? Yeah, here. So every time the accelerometer goes, frequency is 2, so this event essentially gets triggered 2 times per second. But what I want to do is essentially add up all the values every 30 seconds. Um, oh, so since I don't need, well, yeah, this is not going to be global variables anymore. Just total x and y, z are total x, total y, total z, or z. Um, I can say let right there. That's, yeah, those are pretty much temporary and meant to be within there. So for the total, what I was thinking of doing is creating variables for the total. So like total x plus equals move x, total y plus equals move y, total z plus equals move z. But I want it to reset every 30 seconds. How do I know what the second is? Well, of course, I could check here, but I actually want it to coincide with when it's adding data. And since I'm keeping track of how many data points we have so far, so every 30 seconds, how is this going to work? The data point, yeah, I want this to reset. Yeah, because I want that those variables that store the total, I want it to coincide with all of this. So data point will be since we're collecting data every 30 seconds. Do I want to keep track of how many times that gyroscope event is running? Because it's always, unless do I want those variables to reset every time data point is like a multiple of, so we're collecting 30 data points. No, if data point is 0, I don't know, ought to reset every 30 seconds, right? Essentially, every time data point goes up by 1, that's kind of what I want that total accelerometer to reset. I could make those variables global, which they are actually. So whenever I add data, maybe I could reset those values. Clear totals. Oops. Function clear totals. Total x equals 0, total y equals 0, and total z equals 0. They're global variables, so they won't have trouble being accessed. Clear totals right there. Would that work? I think it might. So totals will always go up, but it'll just happen to clear when this runs. Would that actually work? Weird how it color codes them. Interesting. I've never seen variable names get color coded like that, so it must have to correlate with whether it's global or local. Interesting. So I think it'll add up the total amount of movement, because total x, y, and z are really what we're logging, right? So let's run that on here. So the logging, I don't want it to wait for this right now. I forgot about the keyboard shortcut that I can comment and uncomment. This is ready. So let's see if it totals everything. Well, let's see what the totals are at a given moment and see if the number increments and exactly how much. What did we do wrong here? Might have to initialize it as 0 because JavaScript probably doesn't know the data type unless you initialize it to something. You know, yeah, since we're adding a total, we should do it from 0. Wait, do we really have to do it on an individual basis? Or could we go like this? That might not be possible. That's probably only possible in Java. Or if we're declaring variables, that should be possible. We're gonna have to do this on an individual basis. Total y equals 0. And we're gonna have to do let. Can you do like let total x equals let total y equals let total z equals 0? Let's just see what happens. No, based on the color coding, I'm pretty sure that's not going to work. Pretty sure that's not going to work. That's fine. Let's just run it like that. So it looks like it is adding up the total amount of motion. See, if I did 5 per second, you can see how quickly that would add up, right? I just feel like it would probably be overkill. 2 per second, I think that's a nice number. Plus, the amount of battery impact it has will be quite a bit less anyway. I'm going to start with this and see if it's good enough. If it's not, I can always increase the frequency. Oh, look at that 900 number. There, then it resets to 0 and it goes back up again. I think that'll work. So it should reset every 30 seconds. I like it. So I'm not even resetting it inside of here like I thought I would be. Thanks to it being a global variable, it's easy to do this. So I think we've got our data now. So total x, total y, total z is what we're going to log on the official log now. I thought I would be doing an array and then adding all the numbers together, but I can add each variable like this. Let's get rid of this. So see how quickly you can uncomment that? I sure wish AutoHotkey had something like that. That would have been useful today. If I was using Atom with AutoHotkey, I don't even have it on my Intel NUC over there. Just gonna see if I can make this eraser land on the whiteboard nicely. Trick shots on live streams probably don't work out super well. Oh, that actually did work. No, not quite. Well, sorta. I did a little bit of moving it, so you can imagine how it got on. Fun fact, the little mark that's on here right now, right there, that's from a Vice. I did it on my tutorial development series. I did it on my tutorial development series, and it's a really nice whiteboard for that, but the con is that, well, it left that mark, and I'm using the Vice for that, so what I should have done was put a rag in between or something like that. That's what I'm going to be doing in the future, so when I go back to my main location and I start using that at home where I actually have the green screen and all that, then I'll use a rag this time. And honestly, the clamp that I used for that caddy thing, I would grab it, but the cord isn't quite long enough. That clamp actually has some padding on it, so they thought things through. I did not. The vise is like a really small vise. It's perfect for this kind of situation. Although a big one would cover a decent amount of surface area. And if I wanted to like not bend the whiteboard with the small vise, then a simple solution there would be multiple vices that are just kind of spread out. But I usually just hold the top of it when I'm erasing and stuff like that. What's interesting is I have a much easier time erasing with a towel than I do that eraser. I don't know if it's the eraser that's not doing a good job or if it's the marker that's leaving a slightly more permanent mark than the marker that I use over there. I don't know what's going on. Either way, let's just... Right, A and B, I just mapped those keys. I thought like A roll, that's this, and then you're also seeing B roll there. So I think that's a pretty good way to think of it. So let's see if it logs data in the way we want. I think 2 is a better number. Of course, we could fake movements on a simulator probably. The second became 0, 0. So the second was 58 when I started this program, 230058. How do you read military time? Do you just read it as like 23 o'clock or 0 after 23, or if it's like 11:15 p.m., is that like 15 after 23, or how do you read that exactly? I'll have to look that up or something, because I've always been curious about how you read military time. So do you do like 22 o'clock for 10, or how do you do that? 19 for 7? Oh, sweet. So it logged the first bit of data. However, of course, I forgot to make it display what we want. I suppose you were probably screaming at me about that. So plus quote plus total X plus that quote plus total Y plus that quote, not that quote, plus total Z. I think that's going to be our real data. Holy macro. Are we actually at a place where... Oh, that's my bad. So I just had a minor little syntax error. So that new line character is how it literally creates a new line. It's escaping the end letter from its original purpose and essentially being repurposed to do that. So second is 13. So yeah, I think we're gonna actually get some data now. In the meantime, let's remind ourselves how this works. So we're gonna be importing this. I'll probably comment that out since it's very easy to do. When the second becomes 0, we'll then have our first data point. So my key and then my value, does that have to be a string, or can I pass in the variable? Can it store an array with local storage? Well, looks like we got the data we want. So at 11:04, aka 23:04, the heart rate was 86. Total movement for X was 97, 102, 149. Then 30 seconds later, heart rate still 86. Then 268, 24, 33 for XYZ. And then I can scroll up. I can hold the screen if I want the second to update. That's cool. So it should still be able to collect data just as well, regardless of how I scroll or turn this thing off. Oh, and something that's worth mentioning is 86 is still the heart rate. How's that possible? It's supposed to fluctuate a lot more, isn't it? Um, it's worth mentioning that to make the app not shut off after like 30 seconds, that's where me.set timeout enabled equals false comes into play. So I have to import me from appbit and then run this. That's how you make it so the app doesn't automatically shut off after a certain amount of time. So if you're wondering how that works, that's how you do it. The heart rate changed to 87, so it really was 86 3 times in a row. So, and the motion does go down or up depending on what it actually happens to be. I didn't think it would be triple digit, to be honest with you. I thought that would be the worst case. When I'm sleeping, I don't think it's going to be a problem because the highest number we have so far is 636. I don't think I'm going to be making quite that much motion with sleeping. Even if I do, it's probably not going to be on all the axes. Because some of them do happen a lot more than others. So we've got our data logged essentially. I love the fact that I can log data even while I'm scrolling at the same time. That is fascinating. So we've collected 6 data points so far. We can collect up to 1200. Is it 1200 isn't quite the limitation actually, but it's only going to go that high. It could go beyond that actually. I suppose I could make it go beyond that if I really wanted to. Essentially, if I want to set that, all I have to do is change that. So 231 times 5, that wasn't quite 1200, so 231 times 6, we can collect 1386 comfortably. So if I added 100 more points, that's equivalent to how long? My mental math capabilities aren't great right now. So 1300 data points, each one's 30 seconds. I'm sorry. Yeah, 1300 data points, that's right. That's 100 100 data points, each one's 30 seconds. How long is that? 100 divided by 2, that's 50. So 50 more minutes. Why not make it so I can store 50 more minutes? I mean, I don't think it's going to harm anything at all. So data collection does work. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I wasn't even sure if I would get to this stage. That's awesome. So, and of course, yes, the second is between 0 and 30. So it works nicely. So, unfortunately, I have to analyze the data based on this. That kind of sucks, but I can't. I have a way to access data either way. I wanted to like send it to the computer somehow and look at it on there, but what I'm gonna be doing instead is like looking at the sleep chart. I'll give you an example sleep chart. So, uh, I'll show you. I suppose I could explain kind of how the data analysis is going to work in the first place. Um, so I'm just going to load a sample sleep chart. So this is kind of one that's a little bit out of the ordinary for me, but because I have a REM cycle that was 70 minutes long right here, and there's no like red tick marks at all anywhere, so I think that's definitely the longest REM cycle my Fitbit's ever reported, and who knows if that's even real or not, but because I do not recall any dreams that happened during that time. Um, but what kind of data would have been reported here to indicate that? Because I want to see if there's a correlation between. There's no data points where awake happens directly right there. Actually, that's directly after the REM cycle. That awake for 2 minutes right there. Um, is there like any correlation between that REM to awake with the data that's right here? I want to see if I can detect a reliable pattern. Because if so, then I could write the app to detect when I've gotten to a phase like where the cursor is right now. Have I gotten to that phase? I don't know. I know that like June 14th was kind of an interesting day because I had over 3 hours of REM that day supposedly. Oh, but there's no awake chunks. I was kind of hoping there would be. So I just have to like detect where do I wake up right after REM? What kind of special pattern is there? By the way, I hardly recall any dreams this day either. Um, so the whole point is, yeah, I want to see if there's any correlation with what that sleep chart reports with what's on here. Because if there is, then I could have it create like an alarm eventually if it detects I've woken up from a dream sometime after, let's say, 6. Like, I don't care if it's 6:14, 7:14, 7:48, sometime after 6. It would wake me up from whatever dream that may happen to be. And then I can work from there. So, and yes, I am concerned about natural awakening. It's kind of, for me, that's actually why I've been able to like do wild several days in a row because it doesn't actually affect my sleep cycle too much like a wake back to bed would, since I'm naturally waking up. But to be honest with you, I don't know if that's actually considered the same thing. I don't know what Daniel would say about that, but to me it's a little bit less disruptive. Because yes, there'll be a certain amount of time before the next REM cycle occurs, but it'll be from a natural awakening that I can work with. And makes it easy to kind of pinpoint things, whereas with Wake Back to Bed, you just have to hope you land on the middle of REM. And I would rather actually deal with the beginning of REM instead of potentially the middle, like what you do during Wake Back to Bed. But that's what I'm experimenting with at the moment. But yeah, look at the data points. Yeah, look at those are data points. Might be a little bit hard to see. Like I can see it perfectly clearly, but um, I like how the clock can come back if I scroll all the way up. But yeah, that's the idea. I want to be able to compare this with what the sleep chart reports. Sleep chart is not going to be that accurate compared to this new device that's coming out to the market, an EEG device that can actually read brainwaves, unlike this, which only pretty much does heart rate, movement, maybe. I don't know what it does exactly, but that's the kind of stuff it can do to pinpoint that. And it combines that with what's most likely occurring based on these sensor data. Like it kind of determines a probability value analyzing the chart as a whole. Because there has been a day where um, I think I've talked about that in the live stream before, where at first it showed hardly any deep sleep, then all of a sudden I had 2 hours of deep sleep on the same day. I just added an hour or two, so it's clearly analyzing the chart and based on the sensor data, probably determining what's most likely. And that, even that's probably not accurate. When that device comes out of the market, I might get one because I would be interested to see comparing the data. Daniel Love did tell me that he compared the data and he said that it's only about 40% accurate. He also said that um, however well you think you're sleeping, you're actually, he may have been telling me that specifically, or it was based on the sleep chart. I don't remember, so don't take my word for this. But he said, however well you think you're sleeping, you're probably about 30% worse than that. And I guess that's based on the headband versus this. Or else he was just, I don't know if he was saying that about the sleep chart or about, since I have such a mixed up sleep schedule and stuff, I don't know what he was referring to when he told me that, to be honest with you. So, um, don't take my word for that piece. So, I mean, we got the data. So, um, I think at this point it is worth seeing if we can get this local storage thing working with an array. So local storage dot get item. So we'll see if we can store an array. That'd be cool. Um, so then, of course, if we want to clear it, then we're specifically going to have to clear it in the program. That's okay. Oh, and another thing I was going to test is, of course, I have that parasomnia detector, essentially, based on movement over time. Um, we saw the code earlier. You can try to figure out how it works if you really want to know how that works. I'm not going to get into that right now, but what I was also hoping to try to figure out is there a way to launch an app from another app? Like, because do I want this to be a separate app, or do I want to somehow incorporate this into the parasomnia detector later on? Do I want it to all be one app? The parasomnia detector normally quits after 2.5 hours because it's not going to happen beyond that point. It's only going to happen within the first hour or two when I'm probably getting non-REM. I'm probably transitioning from non-REM to REM, but sleep paralysis doesn't kick in, so it ends up essentially taking place in waking life. Dream elements are incorporated into waking life. That's why sleep paralysis is so important, so you can be in a separate dream world. You're paralyzed from essentially opening your eyes and trying to interact with fake elements in the real world. Um, and not even awake while in that state. But lucidity can be achieved in that state. I've had times where I'll be using telekinesis in an actual parasomnia, Um, so that's like a lucid one. It's essentially a lucid dream, but without sleep paralysis, and it's incorporated into waking life. So essentially, I'm using telekinesis in waking life, but with dream elements that are essentially hallucinations. They're not really hallucinations, it's part of the dream. I mean, dreams are hallucinations. So if you dream, you hallucinate every night. You're guilty, just as guilty of that. Um, but it's a natural process, so you're not really guilty of that. But you get the idea. Um, but yeah, the whole parasomnia thing's nothing more than dreaming. It's just um, dreaming in waking life in a sense, but I'm not actually awake. I'm in sort of a trance. Um, anyway, so let's get this. Yeah, oh, so my original point was, do I want to incorporate this in the app that detects that occurring? Or do I want to have it as a separate app and see if it's possible to launch one app from within another app? Like, after 2.5 hours when the app normally quits, using the me.exit function, um, can I do it within there? Or, I mean, can I, instead of doing the me.exit, have it automatically switch to this app? Or, yeah, I just want to see what the options are regarding that. Or else just run this app altogether. It would be nice to get the entire night, then I just have a bunch of data. Otherwise, I could start collecting data like 2.5 hours later. Doesn't really matter a whole lot. So, um, oh, so I want to do this when exiting. Or else, do I want to store it in local storage every single time we add a new piece of data? I suppose. I'm just a little concerned about the write cycles, because what if all this data that's appearing is stored in like RAM that doesn't suffer from limited write cycles like the flash storage on this thing probably does. Oh wow. Um, Now it's recording at the second being 01 and 31. It was 30 and stuff like that for a little while, so the set interval must not quite be perfect or something. I don't know. Or else that's when it collects data. So, uh, add data. Um, yeah, so it must take a little bit of time to run these functions. Well, that's too bad. The second's gonna just keep shifting anyway. Well, it's still gonna be within 30 seconds, I guess. I'll just deal with it, probably. Yeah, there's nothing I can do about that, because it's gotta run the get time. I'm sure that takes some amount of milliseconds, which adds up over time, as we can clearly see here. I was just seeing if there's like a way to reset it back to multiples of 30. else we could do like 29 something to compensate for it, but I don't really want to do that. Or do I want to like have it make sure that the second is either 0 or 30? If it isn't, then do I want to temporarily set the interval to like 29,000, get it back on track, then set it back to 30,000? Seems like a pain, but if I was really concerned about it, I suppose I could. Actually, it wouldn't be too bad, I don't think. Because really, I just have to say, like, if get second equals 0, or, wait, I didn't use and before, did I? No, that's or. Get second equals 30. Then we run all this code. Should have indented first. Else, well, see, I wanted to run the code at that moment, but so I think what I actually want is to check, like how I check the data point here. I want to do like another check to see if the second does not equal 0, or if it does not equal 30. If get second does not equal, I should do like this maybe, but not that concerned about the data type. Get second does not equal 30. It's always going to be when it runs, though, right? Yeah. And it won't impede with that. Then there's gonna have to be like a toggle or something. I don't want to mess with that. If it doesn't equal that, then a variable could become false, I guess, and then become true again. Yeah, no. I don't really like that idea a whole lot. Oh shoot, I haven't been showing the screen. So sorry. This is where I am. I've been messing with this, then I had a full if statement before, like up here. If get second does not equal 0, or get second does not equal 30, and then I put all this inside, but then I realized I want to have a statement kind of like this where I run that instead. That's essentially what I did. So right here, like if this becomes true, then set interval. I might have to clear the interval first before I set it, but then I want to set it back then and only then. I suppose I could set another interval that resets that. That would work. Um, so since I'm not using this variable, I could do like second fix equals fix second. I can't, unfortunately I can't like use the arrow syntax here. That's just not possible, unfortunately. So I have to do like that. And I don't want to set the interval right away. Let's see here. So I'm gonna make it probably clear the add data interval, then reset it to 29 thousandths. I don't know. I don't want to set a whole separate interval. So clear interval. Add data interval. Then set another interval to 29,000, but so I created the variable fix second will be the function name. Yeah, so function fix second. And what I want is second fix equals set interval, set an identical interval that essentially resets the add data one back to 30,000. Because I only want this to happen once. So fix second, that's the name of the function, 29,000. So I only want this to run once, and once it does, I mean, it could also have a little bit of margin just to make sure that this actually executes. Maybe. Then this will go back to 30. So clear interval itself, second fix, and also the add data int. Then sorry, the bitrate was just surprisingly low. Add data int, then we'll reset that back to 30,000. So I think that should make it so that the 29 or whatever only happens every once in a while. Like it'll self-correct. I hope. So let's see. What else did I just add recently? Oh, like going to add. Oh, the local storage thing. Sure. That's something we could do while this runs. So import local storage. So every time this runs, so even if I clear the interval, the rest of this function should still run. Then how about if we only do it every 2? So if data point mod 2 equals 0, then I'm actually going to put it in a full statement. Actually, let's create a function to store the data. Data point is a global variable. My key, let's see, number data. The value, I'll just have that be numbers. I think that's all I would have to do, right? Oh dear. It reset, it started out with a second of 30, then it went to 59. Oh, and get second runs every single second. That's a problem. Of course it's gonna run every second. I don't want that. Wait, no. It's no longer logging data. Boy, I broke it. I broke it, now it's not. That is not worth it. It's not running every second, it's just. Screw that. I did not realize that that would be a problem. That's not worth it. Boy. So, I suspect it failed because of some local storage related thing. Local storage is imported by could not be resolved. Import local storage from why? It has nothing to do with this function, does it? It seems to. Seems to have to do with that function. Store data is not call anywhere, is it? Nope. Weird how it would still run into that error. So local storage dot set item. The error could be the fact that that's not a string or something. So I can't hold it down unless there's at least one entry there so far. How do we see if that works? Fitbit SDK. Oh, I might have to. Oh, I think I might know what the issue is. This might have to do with it. Might not have like permissions. Nope. I don't think that's the problem. What is that? So I must need the companion. It's not worth trying to do that. I just have to hope that I don't like accidentally close it out or something. Yeah, I think it needs a companion because it stores it on the phone or something. So it doesn't seem that local to me. Yeah, let's just do that. That's fantastic that we're collecting data though. I just wish I knew a way to get the number back on track though. That was like relatively easy and not like super complicated. I wish I knew roughly how long it took for that to happen too. I'd be curious to see if that's possible. Uh, performance.now. I wonder if that'll work here. Let's start time equal performance dot now. Oh, it's just all lowercase. End time. And console log took end time minus start time. So I guess it's some sort of number, and then you take the difference between those. Seconds 55, so we'll only have to wait 35 seconds for the first data point to appear. Otherwise, I think we pretty much got it for now. So essentially, next so I'm going to analyze the data to see if there is anything significant, like that correlates with when the sleep chart reports I'm awake, and I actually look at the clock and confirm that I had just naturally woken up from a dream, and see if there's any special correlation with that. If there is, then I think I'll have to reprogram it to no longer log the data, but essentially performance is not defined. Use performance.now. Fitbit SDK. Is there such thing? Oh, you have to be kidding me. Is there like a millisecond reading? Then we could take the difference with that. However, it has to be like between 0 to 1000, so we get the right difference. It has to line up within the same second, I believe. Oh, you know what? This would certainly save a lot of battery. Like when I update the time on the normal app, there's no reason to do that while the screen is off. So if the display is on, then that's the only time I could have it update the time. I don't think I'm going to do that now though, but that's an interesting idea. Now.get milliseconds, and there's no importing now. Let's actually copy and paste that. So essentially, instead of I was kind of hoping to get a millisecond reading anyway, so Yeah. Um, seconds 35, so we'll have to wait like 55 seconds before we get our first data point. So it's actually getting kind of late. In case you can't tell, it's almost midnight for me. So, um, yeah, if I can make anything out of the data, there will be more parts to this. We're essentially going to try to get it to detect when I wake up from a dream. So I'll have to have some sort of. I'll see if there's a correlation with when I'm in a dream. That's when it would actually start detecting the wake up part. Like, I don't want it to start detecting if I've woken up from a dream, if it's detected, until it's detected that I'm in a dream to begin with. Also, something that's making this a little bit tricky is, remember those tick marks on the sleep chart? Um, so this is today's chart, for example. Those little red tick marks. There's a whole bunch of them during the REM period. Like, did I actually wake up or did I make just a little bit of movement during the REM period that wasn't under my control? Right? So, that's a question. Um, I need to make sure that it doesn't register that. Like, it needs to be the actual end of a REM period, not this. And then going back in. So I think what I may have it do is I might have to see if there's a correlation with going back into REM and make sure that doesn't happen for like 5 minutes or something. That may be what I actually have to do. Um, if it detects I woke up from REM and I don't go back into it for like 5 minutes, then it'll act like an alarm goes off. And to make that happen, vibration.start, I think I use, shoot, what, where's the now function? How do you get now? Oh, what? Oh, what am I thinking? How did I not see this part? So we gotta create a date element, kind of like we're doing with the get time. And honestly, I probably could get the time with that. I think there might be a function, but I'm using a regular expression that works well enough. Um, so I think I may have to go like that. What sucks is it's gonna have to. It's gonna take time to get the date too, so obviously it's not gonna be that accurate. So at least I can talk about what would happen from here depending on what happens. So yeah, seconds 40, so about 50 seconds before our first data point. Um, so yeah, I need to make sure that I've actually woken up from REM to begin with. I don't want it to like detect this for and then like 1 minute later wake me up if I'm actually going back into REM. Um, because even so, how easy would a DIO be able to occur? Like, how easy would I be able to re-enter for like a while or something? And I don't want to disrupt the REM cycle. I don't want to do that. Uh, I want it to be from an actual awakening like this, right here. Of course, I got off for a little bit right there, but yeah. Um, so, yeah, I hope you get the point. How do I detect that? I think if it detects the waking up from REM, and I think the requirement is REM should be at least 15 minutes before it does it as well. REM should have been at least 15 minutes, let's say, and I the end of REM should happen for at least 5 minutes because I don't think there's ever been a chunk that's more than 5 minutes like this. I honestly hope I don't actually wake up in those tick marks. I hope it's just little minor movements that happen not under my control. So if there is meaningful data, that's what would happen next. So this is a ridiculous project. It's gone on for longer than it should. Took 4 milliseconds. Um, so it fluctuates, I guess. So what I wanna set it for like 29995 or something. Would that be better? Because like how quickly did the date occur? Sure wish I could see what it took without that. How long did it take for the date? What I could do is run the date like 3 more times and just see how much delay that adds. Because like calling the date function, it probably doesn't take that long. I just want to see like how much fluctuation there potentially could be, right? And I suppose I couldn't just keep setting the interval over and over again based on that, could I? Always do like 30,000 minus whatever this reports. Is that what I would want to do? Because that would certainly be a interesting way to solve the problem. To keep resetting the interval. And obviously I'd have to clear it and then reset it. So there it took 4. Yeah, that doesn't seem to affect the amount of time. Yeah, I like that idea. Let's just keep running this. This is an interesting way to look at it. So, function reset interval. So if I do set an interval within here, that shouldn't affect anything, I don't think. Let's not create a whole function. What did I just delete here? Okay. And time minus start time. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So update data. That doesn't take too much time, does it? Now I think this will help, probably help it at least. It'll probably help minimize how much change there is. And honestly, we could do it from the very start to end. Yeah, why not? Why not go like this? And then clear interval. Add data int. Felt like copying and pasting versus retyping it out. And then add data int equals set interval. Add data. Suppose I can't just put an expression in there, can I? Like 30,000 minus whatever. I don't think that'll work with syntax. I'll just reset now to whatever the number is. No, let's new int equal end time minus start time. New int. Oh, wait. No. $30,000 minus that. Is this what I want? I think so. I think that may be the new function I want. Yes, after midnight. Great. So, I think that is probably the last thing I'll mess around with. So as you can see, there's so many different approaches to so many different things. Oh, the good news is the second was 24, so it's only going to take like 36 seconds. Not quite that long now, but yeah. So assuming this works, I think I'm just gonna go with this and call it a night. So I kind of hope that makes sense, where I would analyze the data and I'd be able to see, shoot, I won't be able to see the specific, oh yeah, I'll be able to see the specific time, like 5:59, supposedly the start of REM, but that may not be accurate. However, I do know for a fact that I woke up from a dream right there, so it definitely had that part, that last little bit accurate. So the second still lines up perfectly fine. But yeah, as you can see, it displays it based on a second is 00, and sometimes a second is 30. So you can see how I would want to be able to tell what the sensor is reporting in that moment and see if there's a correlation. And look at the overall part of the night and see if there's a correlation with that. Oh, I was actually going to show you something that I completely forgot about. I was going to show you that sleep chart analysis thing. I actually showed this in a different live stream, but I'm going to show it here because it's very interesting either way. So I'm pulling it up on my GitHub. So it's kind of hard to see this image. I'm going to see if I could do a side by side comparison. Oh, here we go. There's a perfect. Alright, so you see the sleep chart right here? I have a little bit of deep sleep right here and a little right there. How in the world could I have this much light sleep with no REM, right? Well, if you add a couple hours to this sleep chart, this is the same day. Look at the difference with deep sleep and REM too. No REM right here, or no REM right here, but REM right there. How's that possible? It says I was awake during this period, but now it's only saying that I'm in REM right there. So deep sleep looks very different now, doesn't it? No, none here. Definitely some there though. So so clearly it uses analysis to determine all this, right? And of course, the reason I have no REM right here is because I was doing wilds and I accidentally woke myself up when entering the dream zone. No REM occurred, and that happened 3 times that day. I almost had 3 wilds, but I managed to fail all of them because I accidentally woke up. So no REM occurred for the rest of the day, unfortunately. But the whole point is, look at the difference. Pretty crazy, right? Second is good so far. I'm going to trust that that's going to be the case. But yeah, I hope you get my point with how it analyzes what's most likely based on the sensor data. That's what I think is going on. It analyzes the most likely thing that happened, because that's all it can do. Whereas this headband might be able to figure it out like on the spot without any special analysis, hopefully. So yeah, essentially 30,000 minus. So if it takes like 6 milliseconds, well then it resets the interval. So it clears the interval. Yeah, and then it keeps resetting the interval just to make it more likely to line up with 0, 0, and 30. That's an interesting way to solve that problem potentially. And if I do a future live stream, I'll let you know if that actually worked. So a future live stream will happen if I do notice a correlation and I decide to try implementing something. And of course, there's a lot of extraneous code. Some of it I am going to end up using, but probably not all of it. Like a lot of these, I know for a fact I'm not using those variables because that had to do with the gyroscope stuff, which I'm not using anymore. This I may use again. A lot of these I may still end up using. Definitely not that, unless I implement the parasomnia detector into it. Maybe I'll just leave it in case I end up implementing the parasomnia detector. So I could take code from other files, but with variables, that's just a whole extra step that could be prevented if I just leave these. They're not always changing, they're just really being stored. So Yeah, that's all the code right there. Wow, this is definitely the biggest program I've written so far. Mind you, we got this to make it all possible too. So, so far so good. Yep. Can't believe we got it to actually work. So, I think since it's so late and we actually got something working, I am gonna actually call it a night. Did we get to 4 hours? Almost 3 hours and 52 minutes. About the same length as my casual live streams. They're not really live streams because I didn't broadcast it to YouTube, but the idea was the same. Um, I would do it essentially live with no editing, but here it's actually live. So, um, yeah, while everything is good, I'm gonna put an end to this. Now I can actually start collecting data, so that's kind of exciting. Um, and yep, if there's anything significant, I will definitely be sure to uh, I'll let you guys know like the status, of course, in the next one. Cause do I want to implement an alarm? If so, yeah, then that's what I'll do. So that is gonna be it. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to let me know. I'll try to get to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's it. So thanks for watching and have a good one. Peace.